Hello everyone, welcome and/or welcome back to my channel. My name is Hannah if you're new here, and today, unfortunately, we are talking about the worst books I read in 2025. I decided to start with like the worst, the DNFs, and then we'll get and end the year talking about all the positives. This year was kind of a hard year in a lot of ways, and I think for a lot of people. So I wanted to start with the negative so we could end with some positivity. So I'm not going to dwell too much on these books. These are just books that I personally didn't like. That doesn't mean you can't enjoy them yourself. Today I'm going to talk about 8 books that I gave 2 stars or less. So let's get into it. The first we have is Blood and Steel by Helen Schurer. This is a romantasy. And a romantasy is notoriously a very difficult genre for me to enjoy, and this one just didn't do anything in particular for me in any way, shape, or form, and I honestly probably should have DNF'd it. I just powered through just to see if it was one for me, and it definitely wasn't. I don't even remember the main plot or characters. It's just kind of, to me, what seems to be kind of a generic fantasy romance with a brooding guy and a stabby girl. It's not my genre, so there you go. I gave this one 2 stars. At number 7, we have Divided Allegiance by Elizabeth Moon. This is the second book in the Deeds of Paxenarian and trilogy, and I gave this 2 stars. And this one suffered from being immensely boring. The only reason I pushed through is because I did ultimately want to see our main character Pax become a paladin and see how she would do that. But spoiler alert, the journey was not worth the destination, in my opinion, with that 3rd and final installment. I'm just gonna leave it there. Number 6 is The Haunting of Hill House by Shirley Jackson. I just didn't get it. I didn't understand why this one was so lauded as being a classic horror of all time. It's like a haunted house, but it's not really a haunted house. It's more of a psychological story about the characters that come together to explore the haunted house and try to figure out if it's haunted or not. And none of the characters were enjoyable. And I know it's a horror novel, and thrillers, horrors typically don't have characters that are like super great, and typically I actually enjoy that. I can enjoy non-likable characters, but there was very little for me to root for in terms of these characters, and then the atmosphere for me was severely lacking, so I just didn't feel the scary, nor did I enjoy the characters. So this was a 2 star. Then we have I'm Afraid You've Got Dragons by Peter S. Beagle. This is a middle grade, young adult, question mark, cozy fantasy about a dragon exterminator falling in love, going on a little bit of an adventure. This was supposed to be cozy, but it ended up, I think cozy fantasy has a really hard line to walk between being cozy and cute and warm and inviting and being childish, and like you're talking down to your adult readers, because typically a lot of cozy fantasies are for adult readers, and this one I felt was a little too young. Felt maybe a little condescending, and also it was boring. I didn't really enjoy the plot of this one, so this was again a 2 star for me as well. Yes, then we have The Honey Witch by Sydney J. Shields. This is a cozy fantasy romance that is sapphic, and I didn't think it did any of those elements well. I don't think it had great romantic development. The fantasy plot line and world was really shallow and lacking, and the cozy factor was not there, so it tried to do too many things and just didn't succeed really well in any of them. This one was super forgettable for me. I can't tell you the main characters' names. I just remember leaving this one and feeling like, not like I hated it, but just nothing. And just like, oh, all right. That was a book I read, I guess. In my number 3 spot, we have The Fall of the House of Usher by Edgar Allan Poe. Gosh, I've tried to read some Edgar Allan Poe in the past, and my God, I pretty much dislike it every time. And I try to convince myself, he's a classic, you should read classics. But honestly, just read What Moves the Dead by T. Kingfisher, which is a retelling of The Fall of the House of Usher. That's actually scary and compelling, in my opinion. The Fall of the House of Usher is a short story, so it's only like 20 pages. So, I mean, feel free to give it a try, but I just, again, was not scared, didn't really feel the vibes and the atmosphere of this one. Just, it was a nothing story to me. Again, 2 stars. The last 2 books I have to talk about are really personal preference things. We all have hard lines, boundaries that we are just not okay with. And that's kind of the case for both of these 2 books, kind of crossing my boundaries and just like whenever I come across these things in a book, it's a deal breaker for me. So if you like these books or that's not a deal breaker for you, I'd say please don't let me stop you. But my number 2 spot is The Memory Police by Yoko Ogawa. So this is a dystopian, slow-paced sci-fi. And it's, one, boring. I think there is something about translated Japanese literature that I find incredibly dry and slow-paced. I have found very few that I've enjoyed. I'm willing to be proven wrong. I would love to find some translated fiction, Japanese translated fiction that I enjoy. But this one was slow. It's unexplained, which is fine. But when nothing is happening and nothing is getting explained, it was a real slog for me. And then the main character is a cheater. She has a relationship with a married man in this book, and that was a hard no for me. I really don't like cheating in any way, shape, or form. It's something I really don't like in my fiction. I don't like it in romance, pretty much ever. So this was just one of those things where as soon as I came across that, I was already not super enjoying this story, and that cheating element came in. I just was like, this is just not for me. But this is an incredibly lauded work of literature, so please don't let me stop you. It just had one of my hard lines in it. The last book, which I had kind of alluded to before, is Oath of Gold by Elizabeth Moon. This was a 1-star read from me. This is the 3rd and final book in the Deed of Paxnarian. In this, we find our main character finally becoming a paladin, but at what cost? The message that this book leaves you with is that, to me, in my interpretation, is that women are supposed to endure all manner of horrors and assault to triumph. And to some people, being triumphant over those moments and pushing through and coming out the other side healed from those traumas is a super powerful story. I'm not saying it's not. I'm just saying I don't believe our main character had to go through all of this, all of what she went through in these 3 books to get to where she is at the end. I just found it pretty disgusting. It felt a little bit like trauma porn a little bit. It's not even, none of it is like gratuitous or even on page that much. It's just, you know what's going on. And I truly don't think that if you don't want to, you don't have to subject yourself to those types of things in your media if you don't want to. And I'm just one of those people that does not want to read about assault and violence towards women specifically in that way. I think women can be triumphant and overcome things beyond sexual assault, and I don't think women need to be assaulted to become something greater. And the reason I hated this book so much is because it felt like she wasn't quite a paladin until she went through that final horrific torture. She went through torture at the end of this book, and then she's healed and becomes a paladin after that. So I really don't vibe with that messaging that you have to be assaulted to transcend, to come into your own. At least that was my interpretation. I'm willing to be proven wrong, but that's just the feeling that I got from the message of this book. And that is, again, one of my hard lines that I'm not super okay with. Ultimately, this trilogy I don't think is worth reading. I thought the first one was actually quite good, but the ultimate ending of this series was a huge disappointment, and I don't hate many books. This one might be a contender for a hated book. Those are the 8 books that I disliked the most this year, my worst books of 2025. I just wanted to get through that, and now we can focus on all of the positive for my next couple of videos and finally wrapping up 2025. In the comments down below, instead of typing your worst books, I want to know your middle of the road books. Books that just weren't for you, and explain why, and maybe it'll encourage someone else to pick it up because they like that thing. Let's leave it on a, maybe a more positive spin at the end of this video than Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in another video of mine very soon. Bye.